I'm grateful you joined tonight. Your brain is healing emotional wounds right now, repairing damage while you simply exist, processing pain you don't even realize you're carrying. Tonight, you'll discover why sleep is the master key to emotional healing. And by the end, you'll understand why rest is the most powerful medicine for a tired heart. Welcome to Psychology for Sleep. Wherever you are right now, perhaps feeling the weight of emotions you've carried all day, or simply noticing your heart beating steadily in your chest, allow yourself to settle into this moment. We'll journey through 101 psychology facts about emotional healing through sleep. From the brain regions where sadness lives, to the dreams that edit your painful memories, to the moment each morning when grief feels just slightly more bearable than the night before. This thoughtful journey through emotional healing builds bridges between tired hearts. A gentle like, subscribe, or sharing your thoughts creates a pathway for more healing souls to discover this sanctuary, and brings us closer to protect this peaceful space, one sleepy soul at a time. Your healing journey inspires ours. Let yourself settle completely here. Feel your jaw unclench, your breath deepen naturally. You can let these thoughts drift past without holding them. Sense that soothing heaviness enveloping you, like your consciousness slowly dimming its brightness. Emotions dissolving into the peaceful fog of approaching sleep. Safe and undisturbed, close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're floating in a space where tired hearts find rest and healing begins. Let your mind merge with this gentle darkness. And now we begin. Your emotional pain has a physical address in your brain. When you experience sadness, rejection, or loss, specific regions light up with electrical activity. The anterior cingulate cortex, the insula, and the amygdala all respond to emotional distress. Neuroscientists have discovered using brain imaging that these areas overlap significantly with regions that process physical pain. This means when someone says their heart is breaking, they're describing something neurologically real. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between a wounded body and a wounded heart. Both register as genuine injury, triggering stress hormones, elevated heart rate, and immune responses. The brain treats emotional trauma the same way it treats physical trauma, as damage requiring repair. Understanding this helps explain why emotional pain feels so exhausting. It's not weakness. It's your entire nervous system responding to injury. Emotional pain activates your body's ancient threat detection system, the amygdala, an almond-shaped structure deep in your brain. Serves as your emotional alarm system when you experience rejection, failure, or heartbreak. The amygdala signals danger just as urgently as if you encountered a predator. Research in social neuroscience has shown that social pain triggers the same threat response as physical danger. Your body floods with cortisol and adrenaline. Your muscles tense. Your breathing quickens. And your heart pounds. This made sense for our ancestors. Social rejection from the tribe meant death. Today, your nervous system still responds to emotional pain with full survival mode activation. The problem is, this response is designed for brief emergencies, not prolonged emotional stress. Without adequate rest to process and reset, your body stays locked in this exhausted state of high alert. Chronic emotional stress physically changes your brain structure. Studies from major medical centers have found that prolonged exposure to stress hormones actually shrinks the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory and emotional regulation. When you carry unprocessed emotional pain day after day, cortisol levels remain elevated, and this sustained exposure damages neural connections. The prefrontal cortex, which helps you think clearly and regulate emotions, shows decreased activity under chronic stress. Meanwhile, the amygdala becomes overactive, making you more reactive to emotional triggers. These changes aren't permanent, but they explain why emotional pain makes everything harder. Decision-making, concentration, even simple tasks feel overwhelming. Your brain is literally restructuring under the weight of unresolved emotions. This isn't happening because you're weak or broken. It's a biological response to carrying too much for too long without adequate rest to repair the damage. Your heart responds directly to emotional pain. When you experience intense sadness or grief, your heart rate variability changes. The rhythm becomes less flexible, less adaptive. Cardiologists have documented something called broken heart syndrome or stress cardiomyopathy, where extreme emotional distress causes actual heart muscle dysfunction. Research from cardiology centers shows that chronic emotional stress increases risk of heart disease as significantly as smoking or high blood pressure. This isn't metaphor or exaggeration. Emotional pain triggers the release of stress hormones that constrict blood vessels, increase blood pressure, and force your heart to work harder. Your cardiovascular system bears the physical burden of emotional wounds. People often describe feeling a tightness in their chest during sadness. That's real vascular constriction. The heart and emotions are inseparably linked, which is why emotional healing requires not just mental rest, but physical restoration too. Unprocessed emotions accumulate in your body like residue throughout your day. Every frustration, disappointment, or moment of sadness leaves behind chemical traces. Stress hormones, inflammatory proteins, and neurotransmitter imbalances. Your body is designed to clear these substances during rest periods. But modern life rarely provides adequate downtime. Research in psychoneuroendocrinology has found that people who suppress or ignore emotions show elevated inflammatory markers in their bloodstream, even weeks later. These biochemical remnants of emotional distress circulate through your system, affecting mood, energy, immune function, and sleep quality. It's like carrying invisible weight that gets heavier each day. Your muscles hold tension from yesterday's anxiety. Your nervous system remembers this morning's stress. Your heart still beats faster from last week's argument. Without time to process and release this accumulated burden, you move through life carrying the chemical memory of every unresolved feeling. Emotional exhaustion is a distinct form of fatigue. When researchers measure tiredness, they find that emotional fatigue affects different brain networks than physical tiredness. Brain imaging studies have shown that emotional depletion specifically impacts the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and posterior cingulate, areas involved in self-awareness and emotional regulation. People experiencing emotional exhaustion describe feeling tired in their soul rather than just their body. You might have full physical energy but feel completely drained after emotionally difficult interactions. This is because processing emotions requires tremendous cognitive resources. Your brain works harder during emotional stress than during complex problem solving. The mental effort of managing feelings, suppressing reactions, or navigating difficult relationships consumes energy at a cellular level. This is why you can sleep 8 hours yet wake feeling unrested if those hours didn't include deep emotional processing. Your immune system weakens under emotional stress. When you carry prolonged sadness, anxiety, or unresolved grief, your body's ability to fight illness diminishes measurably. Research demonstrates that people under chronic emotional stress are significantly more likely to develop colds when exposed to viruses. The mechanism is clear. Stress hormone suppress production of lymphocytes, the white blood cells that fight infection. Additionally, cortisol reduces antibody production and impairs the immune system's memory, making you vulnerable to repeated infections. Studies have found that emotional distress slows wound healing by up to 40%. Your body literally cannot repair itself properly while managing ongoing emotional pain. The immune system and emotional system share the same biological resources. When one is overwhelmed, the other suffers. This connection explains why emotional healing and physical health are inseparable aspects of wellness. Emotional pain disrupts your body's natural circadian rhythms. The suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain coordinates the 24-hour cycle of hormones, body temperature, and sleep-wake patterns. When you experience ongoing emotional distress, stress hormones interfere with this delicate timing system. Cortisol, which should peak in morning and decline through the day, remains elevated into evening when it should be lowest. Melatonin, your sleep hormone, gets suppressed by the nervous system's hyperarousal. Sleep research has found that people with unresolved emotional trauma show significantly disrupted circadian patterns, with hormone releases occurring at inappropriate times throughout the day and night. This misalignment explains why emotional pain makes sleep elusive. Your body's biological clock is confused by conflicting signals. You feel wired when you should feel tired, exhausted when you should feel alert. The chaos of emotions creates chaos in your body's most fundamental rhythms. Your digestive system responds to emotional states through the gut-brain axis. Scientists now understand that the gut and brain communicate constantly via the vagus nerve, with 90% of signals traveling from gut to brain. When you experience emotional pain, your gut responds. Stomach tension, nausea, loss of appetite, or digestive distress. Research has found that emotional stress alters gut microbiome composition, reducing beneficial bacteria and increasing inflammatory species. This microbial shift then sends signals back to the brain, potentially worsening anxiety and depression. The phrase gut feeling reflects biological reality. Your digestive system contains over 100 million neurons, more than your spinal cord, and produces 90% of your body's serotonin, a key mood regulator. Emotional healing cannot happen fully without addressing this gut-brain connection. When your emotions are in turmoil, your entire digestive system feels the impact, creating a cycle where emotional pain and physical discomfort reinforce each other. So, emotional pain isn't just psychological. It's registered as physical injury throughout your entire body. From brain structure to heart function, to immune response to digestive health, your body experiences sadness as a form of damage requiring repair. When you feel overwhelmed by emotions, you're not being dramatic or weak. You're responding accurately to genuine biological distress. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it evolved to do, signaling that something needs attention, care, and most importantly, rest. Understanding this physiological reality helps explain why willpower alone rarely heals emotional wounds. You cannot think your way out of emotional pain any more than you can think away a broken bone. Both require time, care, and the right conditions for your body to repair itself. And, increasingly, science shows that those conditions emerge most powerfully during sleep. Sleep deprivation amplifies emotional reactivity in measurable ways. When you don't sleep adequately, your amygdala, the emotional alarm center, becomes 60% more reactive to negative stimuli. Brain imaging research has shown that sleep-deprived brains respond to mildly negative images with the same intensity that well-rested brains reserve for genuinely threatening situations. Even more notably, the connection between the amygdala and prefrontal cortex weakens without sleep. Your prefrontal cortex normally acts as a wise supervisor, helping you respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. But after even one night of poor sleep, this regulatory connection deteriorates. Small annoyances feel magnified. Minor disappointments trigger intense reactions. You cry more easily, anger more quickly, and feel overwhelmed by situations you'd normally handle calmly. This isn't emotional instability. It's sleep-deprived neurology. Your brain literally cannot regulate emotions properly without adequate rest. Chronic sleep loss predicts development of mood disorders. Longitudinal research, tracking thousands of people over many years, has found that persistent insomnia substantially increases risk of developing depression and anxiety disorders. Some studies show the risk triples or quadruples. This isn't just correlation. The relationship appears causal. When people address sleep problems first, their mood symptoms often improve even without other interventions. The mechanism involves multiple systems. Insufficient sleep disrupts neurotransmitter balance, particularly serotonin and dopamine, which regulate mood. It also impairs the brain's ability to clear proteins that accumulate during waking hours and contribute to cognitive decline. Additionally, poor sleep perpetuates inflammation throughout the body, and chronic inflammation is now recognized as a significant factor in depression. The evidence is clear. Protecting your sleep isn't just about feeling rested. It's about protecting your emotional and mental health from deterioration. Your body's stress response system requires sleep to reset. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or HPA axis, coordinates your stress hormone release. Under normal conditions, this system responds to stressors, then returns to baseline. But chronic emotional pain combined with insufficient sleep creates HPA axis dysregulation. The system remains in high output mode. Research has shown that even 1 week of adequate sleep can begin normalizing HPA axis function in people with chronic stress. During deep sleep, cortisol production decreases to its lowest levels, giving your adrenal glands essential recovery time. Without this nightly reset, your baseline cortisol remains elevated, meaning you wake already stressed before the day even begins. This explains why everything feels harder when you're sleep deprived. You're not starting from neutral. You're starting from an already depleted, hyper-aroused state. Sleep is when the stress thermostat recalibrates to a manageable level. Emotional memories become more intense without sleep. Memories aren't static recordings. They're reconstructed each time you recall them. And this reconstruction process is influenced by your physiological state. When you're sleep deprived, the amygdala's hyperactivity means you recall emotional memories with heightened negative intensity. Sleep research has found that people who slept poorly before recalling difficult memories rated those memories as more distressing than people who slept well, even when remembering the same events. Furthermore, sleep-deprived individuals showed stronger physiological stress responses, faster heartbeat, elevated cortisol, when recalling emotional experiences. This creates a difficult cycle. Emotional pain disrupts sleep. Then poor sleep makes emotional memories feel more painful, which further disrupts sleep. Without intervention, this pattern intensifies over time. Your memories of difficult experiences aren't fixed. They're colored by your current neurological state, which is profoundly affected by how well you've been sleeping. Emotional pain and physical pain share neural pathways, but they heal differently. While physical injuries mend through cellular repair and inflammation, emotional wounds require a different healing process. Memory reconsolidation and neural pathway reorganization. This is where sleep becomes uniquely important. During waking hours, your brain focuses on immediate survival and task completion. There's no bandwidth for deep emotional processing. Research has demonstrated that emotional memory editing happens almost exclusively during specific sleep stages. Your waking brain is too busy managing the present to reorganize the past. Think of sleep as a quiet workshop where your brain can finally sort through accumulated emotional experiences without the pressure of immediate demands. If you're feeling emotional pain right now, please know, it's real. It's physical, and it's not your fault. Your brain needs sleep to process what you've been carrying. Willpower cannot heal emotional wounds. Many people approach emotional pain like a problem to solve through determination or positive thinking. But neuroscience reveals that emotional healing isn't a conscious process you can force. It's an automatic biological process that happens when conditions are right. Your prefrontal cortex, the seat of willpower and conscious control, actually needs to step back for deep emotional healing to occur. Research has found that emotional memory reconsolidation happens in subcortical regions, areas below conscious awareness. Trying to will yourself to feel better is like trying to will your liver to filter toxins faster. Both are automatic processes requiring the right physiological environment. The right environment for emotional healing includes specific neurochemical conditions, particular brain wave patterns, and reduced activity in conscious control regions. These conditions emerge naturally during sleep, not during wakeful effort. This is why rest is more healing than resilience sometimes. Rumination, repeatedly thinking about emotional pain, becomes harder to control without sleep. The default mode network, a brain system active during rest and self-reflection, normally helps you process experiences and move forward. But sleep deprivation causes this network to malfunction, leading to repetitive, unproductive thought patterns. Research has found that after poor sleep, people spend significantly longer ruminating on negative experiences compared to well-rested individuals. The sleep-deprived brain tends to cycle through the same thoughts repeatedly, replaying painful moments without reaching resolution. You find yourself thinking about the same conversation, the same loss, the same worry over and over, without gaining any new insight or peace. This isn't a character flaw or lack of mental discipline. It's a neurological consequence of insufficient sleep. Your brain needs specific sleep stages to break these thought patterns and establish new, healthier ways of processing emotional experiences. Loneliness and social pain activate the same brain regions as physical injury. When you feel disconnected, rejected, or alone, your anterior cingulate cortex responds with the same intensity it would to a wound. Evolution designed this response because for humans, social isolation historically meant mortal danger. But modern life creates chronic social pain through isolation, digital disconnection, and superficial interactions. Research has found that chronic loneliness affects health outcomes as significantly as well-known risk factors like smoking, with effects on inflammation, immunity, and sleep quality. The biological toll includes elevated inflammation, weakened immunity, and disrupted sleep, all of which prevent the emotional healing you need. Interestingly, sleep itself serves a social function. During REM sleep, your brain practices social interactions and emotional recognition, essentially rehearsing the skills needed for connection. When social pain keeps you awake, you lose this crucial practice time, making future social interactions even more difficult. The cycle perpetuates itself unless sleep intervenes. Unresolved emotional pain literally ages your cells faster. Telomeres, the protective caps on your chromosomes, shorten with age and stress. They're like the plastic tips on shoelaces that prevent fraying. Research has found that chronic emotional stress accelerates telomere shortening, equivalent to nearly a decade of biological aging. People experiencing prolonged grief, anxiety, or depression show cellular aging markers significantly advanced beyond their chronological years. This happens through multiple mechanisms. Elevated cortisol damages DNA. Chronic inflammation accelerates cellular deterioration. And oxidative stress from emotional distress overwhelms your body's repair systems. However, the same research identified sleep as a protective factor. People with adequate sleep showed less stress-related telomere shortening even when experiencing similar emotional difficulties. Sleep activates cellular repair mechanisms that partially counteract stress damage. Your nightly rest isn't just psychological recovery. It's cellular regeneration that literally slows the aging process, accelerated by emotional pain. Your emotional pain affects everyone around you through a process called emotional contagion. Humans unconsciously mirror the emotional states of those nearby through specialized mirror neurons. When you carry unprocessed grief, anxiety, or sadness, others absorb these emotions, especially those closest to you. Research has found that chronic emotional distress in one family member measurably affects sleep quality and stress hormone levels in other family members. Children particularly absorb parental emotional states, even when parents think they're hiding their pain. This isn't about guilt. It's about understanding that emotional healing isn't just personal. It's communal. When you rest and heal, you create a calmer environment for everyone in your life. Sleep serves as a boundary that contains your emotional processing, preventing your pain from continuously radiating outward. The healing that happens during sleep protects not just you, but the emotional atmosphere of your entire social environment. Exercise helps emotional health, but only when combined with adequate sleep. Physical activity releases endorphins, reduces cortisol, and improves mood. These benefits are well documented. However, research has revealed a crucial caveat. The emotional benefits of exercise disappear in people sleeping less than 6 hours nightly. Without sufficient sleep, exercise becomes another stressor rather than a stress reliever. Your body cannot distinguish between the physical stress of a workout and other forms of stress when sleep deprived. The cortisol spike from exercise fails to return to baseline. Inflammation from muscle exertion persists longer, and the mood-boosting endorphins metabolize too quickly. Meanwhile, people who sleep well experience lasting mood improvements from even moderate activity. This illustrates a fundamental principle. Nearly every health intervention requires adequate sleep to work properly. Sleep isn't one pillar of wellness among many. It's the foundation supporting every other pillar, including emotional resilience. Crying serves a biological purpose in emotional processing, and sleep enables this process to complete. Emotional tears contain stress hormones, literally releasing cortisol and adrenaline through the tear ducts. Research has found that people report feeling better after crying because they're physiologically releasing stress chemicals. However, crying during waking hours only initiates emotional processing. It doesn't complete it. The relief is temporary unless followed by sleep, which allows your brain to fully integrate the emotional release. During sleep, your brain consolidates the emotional experience you cried about, embedding new perspectives and reducing the intensity associated with the memory. People who cry without sleeping often feel emotionally raw and vulnerable for extended periods. Those who cry then sleep report greater emotional resolution and closure. Your tears begin the healing process. Sleep finishes it. Neither is sufficient alone. Both are necessary parts of emotional recovery. Emotional pain changes how you perceive time. When experiencing intense sadness or anxiety, people consistently overestimate time duration. A sad hour feels longer than a happy hour. This phenomenon occurs because emotional arousal increases the density of memories formed. Your brain records more details during emotional distress, making the experience feel extended. This has implications for suffering. When you're in emotional pain, time itself becomes an additional burden. Minutes feel like hours, making endurance feel impossible. However, sleep resets temporal perception. After adequate rest, people report that difficult periods feel shorter in retrospect. The sleep-processed memory is compressed, edited, and filed in a way that reduces its subjective duration. This is partly why sleeping on it helps. Not just because emotions calm, but because your perception of how long the pain lasted shifts, making the experience feel more manageable and already further in the past. Emotional suppression requires tremendous energy and prevents sleep. When you push feelings down rather than processing them, your brain works overtime to maintain that suppression. Brain imaging studies show that emotional suppression activates the prefrontal cortex continuously, essentially requiring you to guard your own feelings. This constant vigilance is exhausting. Research has found that people who suppress emotions consume significantly more cognitive resources than those who acknowledge feelings. This energy drain manifests as mental fatigue, difficulty concentrating, and impaired sleep onset. Your brain cannot fully relax into sleep while actively suppressing emotions. It's like trying to fall asleep while simultaneously solving math problems. The suppressed emotions don't disappear. They remain beneath consciousness, maintaining just enough arousal to prevent deep sleep. Paradoxically, the attempt to avoid feeling emotions guarantees you'll feel their effects more severely through sleep disruption and the compounding exhaustion that follows. Trauma fragments memory, in ways that make healing particularly difficult. Normally, memories are processed sequentially into narrative form, a clear story with beginning, middle, and end. But traumatic experiences often fragment into disconnected sensory pieces. A smell, a sound, a physical sensation, each stored separately without context or timeline. This fragmentation happens because extreme stress disrupts the hippocampus, which normally organizes memories coherently. Research has found that trauma survivors' memories often lack verbal narrative structure, existing instead as wordless sensory flashbacks. These fragments intrude unexpectedly, triggering intense emotional responses without clear understanding of why. Sleep, particularly REM sleep, helps reassemble these fragments into coherent narratives that feel less threatening. During REM, your brain can approach traumatic fragments in a lower stress neurochemical environment, gradually linking them into a story you can understand and ultimately file away. Without adequate REM sleep, trauma remains fragmented, each piece retaining its power to overwhelm you. But what if healing doesn't require effort? What if it requires surrender to sleep? Everything we've explored reveals that emotional pain is profoundly physical, affecting every system in your body from brain structure to cellular aging. The exhaustion you feel isn't just tiredness. It's your entire organism overwhelmed by the work of managing unprocessed emotions. Willpower, determination, and conscious effort have their place, but they cannot complete emotional healing alone. Your brain needs specific conditions to reorganize painful memories, reset stress hormones, and restore emotional regulation. These conditions don't emerge from trying harder. They emerge from rest. Sleep is not passive absence of activity. It's active biological restoration, a time when your brain can finally do the healing work that waking hours make impossible. Perhaps the answer has been there all along, waiting in the darkness behind closed eyes. Let's pause here and notice your body. As you breathe out slowly, appreciate each sensation without judgment. Feel where tension lives, perhaps in your shoulders, your jaw, the space around your heart. These are places where emotions reside, held in muscle and tissue. Perhaps you feel tightness in your chest, heaviness in your belly, tension along your shoulders. These sensations are honored here. They need nothing from you except awareness. Notice the gentle rhythm of your breath, the weight of your body against the surface beneath you. You are a complete ecosystem, processing experiences at every level, from thought to feeling to cellular response. Trillions of cells working in quiet cooperation, healing damage you're not even aware of. You don't have to do anything right now. Your body knows how to heal. Your only job is to rest and allow the process to unfold. Now we continue. REM sleep is where emotional memory processing primarily occurs. REM stands for rapid eye movement, a sleep stage characterized by intense brain activity, vivid dreams, and paradoxical muscle paralysis. During REM, your brain replays emotional experiences from recent days, but with a crucial difference. The neurochemical environment changes completely. Stress neurotransmitters, particularly norepinephrine, drop to nearly zero levels. This creates a unique condition. Your brain can revisit emotionally charged memories without the overwhelming feelings that originally accompanied them. Research using high-resolution brain imaging has found that during REM sleep, the amygdala communicates with the hippocampus to reorganize emotional memories, essentially rewriting how they're stored. You experience the memory without the full stress response, allowing your brain to separate the event from its emotional intensity. This is biological therapy happening automatically, requiring no conscious effort, just the willingness to sleep deeply enough to reach REM stages. Dreams are not random nonsense. They're your brain's way of emotionally problem-solving. Modern neuroscience reveals that dreams serve a specific function in emotional regulation. When you dream about difficult situations, relationships, or anxieties, your brain is running simulations, testing different emotional responses in a safe environment. Research has found that dream content correlates strongly with emotional concerns from waking life, but with important transformations. Threatening figures become less threatening, anxious situations reach resolution, and painful memories appear with altered emotional tone. Your dreaming brain is essentially conducting exposure therapy, allowing you to confront difficult emotions in progressively manageable doses. People who remember their dreams and reflect on them show better emotional regulation than those who suppress or ignore dream content. Dreams aren't distractions from healing. They are the healing process made visible. Your unconscious mind working through what your conscious mind couldn't resolve during the day. The hippocampus, your brain's memory center, requires sleep to function properly. During waking hours, the hippocampus is busy encoding new experiences into temporary storage. But without sleep, these memories cannot transfer into long-term storage, and the hippocampus becomes overwhelmed. Think of it like a desk piled with papers. Eventually, there's no room for new work. Research has shown that sleep-deprived hippocampi show significantly reduced activity when trying to form new memories. More importantly, for emotional healing, the hippocampus helps contextualize emotional memories, understanding when and where something happened, recognizing that past events are past, not present threats. Without adequate sleep, your hippocampus cannot properly timestamp emotional memories. This is why old hurts can feel fresh when you're exhausted. Your brain literally cannot distinguish past pain from current pain. Sleep allows the hippocampus to properly file memories in the past tense, where they belong. Sleep reorganizes neural pathways related to emotional responses. Your brain is plastic, constantly forming new connections and pruning unused ones. This neuroplasticity is most active during sleep. When you repeatedly respond to a situation with anxiety, you strengthen those anxious neural pathways. But during sleep, particularly slow-wave deep sleep, your brain can reorganize these pathways, weakening maladaptive connections and strengthening healthier response patterns. Research has shown that specific neural circuits associated with fear responses are actively modified during sleep, becoming less reactive with each sleep cycle. This means you can literally sleep your way toward calmer responses to triggers that previously overwhelmed you. Each night of quality sleep slightly reshapes your emotional reactivity. This isn't metaphorical. It's measurable change in how neurons connect and communicate. Therapy and conscious effort create change, but sleep makes that change permanent by physically rewiring your brain. Sleep edits emotional memories by separating the emotional charge from factual content. You might remember a difficult conversation or a painful event clearly, while feeling less upset about it. This isn't just time healing wounds. It's a specific neurobiological process called memory reconsolidation. During sleep, memories are retrieved, modified, and restored in altered form. Research has found that emotional memories accessed during sleep undergo synaptic changes that reduce their emotional intensity while preserving factual details. Think of it like editing a photograph. You can reduce color saturation while maintaining the image clarity. Your brain does this automatically during certain sleep stages, particularly during the transition between deep sleep and REM. The memory remains accessible and informative, but it no longer triggers the same physiological stress response. This is why people often say, "I'm okay with it now," about past hurts. Their brain has literally edited the emotional volume down during sleep. The amygdala, your emotional alarm system, gets reset during deep sleep. Throughout the day, your amygdala becomes increasingly reactive, like a smoke detector becoming more sensitive as hours pass. By evening, minor stressors trigger major reactions because your amygdala is hypervigilant from accumulated stress. During slow-wave sleep, the prefrontal cortex sends inhibitory signals that calm the amygdala, essentially recalibrating its sensitivity. Research has demonstrated that even a 90-minute nap containing deep sleep reduces amygdala reactivity substantially, in some studies by as much as 30%. Without this nightly reset, your amygdala remains in heightened alert, interpreting neutral situations as threatening. This explains why everything feels more manageable after good sleep. Not because circumstances changed, but because your threat detection system has been recalibrated to appropriate sensitivity levels. Your emotional responses align better with actual threat levels rather than with accumulated exhaustion. Sleep doesn't just rest your amygdala. It restores its ability to distinguish real danger from false alarms. Sleep enhances your capacity for empathy and social connection. When well rested, you're better able to read facial expressions, interpret emotional tone, and respond compassionately to others' feelings. Sleep deprivation impairs these social emotional skills significantly. Research has found that after just one night of poor sleep, people's ability to recognize subtle emotional expressions declines substantially. They particularly struggled to distinguish between fear and surprise, anger and disgust, crucial distinctions for appropriate social responses. Additionally, sleep-deprived individuals showed reduced activity in brain regions associated with empathy when shown images of people in distress. This isn't callousness. It's neurological impairment. Your capacity to connect emotionally with others depends on your brain's rested state. When you prioritize sleep, you're not just helping yourself heal, you're maintaining your ability to be present and compassionate with others. Whatever you're healing from, grief, heartbreak, trauma, stress, your brain is designed to help you through it. Sleep deprivation creates a negativity bias in memory formation. When exhausted, your brain preferentially encodes and recalls negative information, while failing to properly store positive experiences. Research has found that sleep-deprived participants remembered significantly more negative images than positive ones. Roughly 2 to 3 times as many negative experiences compared to positive ones. Well-rested participants remembered both equally. This creates a distorted worldview, where bad days feel representative and good moments seem forgettable. The mechanism involves the amygdala's hyperactivity favoring threat-related information, while the hippocampus, impaired by fatigue, fails to properly encode positive memories. Over time, this bias accumulates, making life feel darker than it objectively is. Depression often involves this exact pattern: disproportionate recall of negative experiences. Improving sleep can partially correct this bias, allowing your brain to record life more accurately, capturing moments of joy, beauty, and connection alongside difficulties. Balanced memory requires balanced sleep. Sleep doesn't erase your memories. It transforms your relationship with them. After adequate REM sleep, people describe painful memories with more emotional distance, using phrases like, "that happened to me," rather than "I'm experiencing that." This linguistic shift reflects actual neurological change. The memory moves from feeling present tense to feeling clearly past tense. Research has found that participants who slept after recalling difficult memories showed reduced physiological stress responses when remembering those same events later. Lower heart rate, reduced cortisol, calmer breathing. The facts remained unchanged, but the emotional impact diminished. Your sleeping brain essentially creates perspective, the psychological distance that allows you to hold painful truths without being overwhelmed by them. This is different from suppression or avoidance. The memory is accessible and clear, but it no longer hijacks your nervous system. You become the observer of your past rather than its prisoner. Your sleep cycles follow a predictable 90-minute rhythm, and each cycle contributes differently to emotional healing. Early night sleep contains more slow-wave deep sleep, which clears stress hormones and consolidates factual aspects of memories. Late night and early morning sleep contains more REM sleep, which processes emotional aspects and integrates experiences into your broader life narrative. Both are necessary. You need the cortisol clearing of deep sleep and the emotional processing of REM sleep. Research has found that people who wake after only 4 hours miss crucial REM periods, while those who sleep irregularly miss deep sleep stages. Either pattern impairs emotional healing. Your brain needs the full symphony of sleep stages, in their natural sequence and duration, to complete the healing process. Partial sleep is like partial treatment, better than nothing, but insufficient for full recovery. Complete cycles create complete healing. Dreams about difficult experiences predict better psychological adjustment. People who dream about traumatic events actually recover faster than those who don't. According to research, initially, this seems counterintuitive. Wouldn't dreaming about trauma be distressing? But the dreaming brain processes these experiences in a neurochemically safe environment. The stress hormones are suppressed, so you can confront the memory without full emotional activation. Each time you dream about a difficult experience, your brain weakens the neural pathways connecting memory to intense emotional response. It's like repeated exposure therapy happening automatically during sleep. People who avoid thinking about trauma during the day but dream about it at night show better outcomes than those who neither think about it nor dream about it. Your unconscious mind knows what needs processing and will address it during sleep, even when your conscious mind tries to avoid it. Trust the dreams, even difficult ones. Sleep makes you more cognitively flexible about emotional situations. Cognitive flexibility is the ability to adapt your thinking, consider multiple perspectives, and shift strategies when something isn't working. It's crucial for emotional resilience because rigid thinking amplifies emotional suffering. Research has demonstrated that after good sleep, people generate significantly more alternative interpretations of ambiguous social situations. When someone cancels plans, a well-rested person might think they're busy, while a sleep-deprived person assumes they don't like me. This flexibility comes from the prefrontal cortex, which operates optimally only when well-rested. Additionally, REM sleep strengthens creative problem-solving and associative thinking. You literally connect ideas differently after sleeping. This is why difficult situations often seem more solvable in the morning. Your sleeping brain has tried different mental angles, exploring perspectives unavailable to your exhausted evening mind. Flexibility emerges from rest, allowing you to find pathways through emotional difficulties that seemed impossible when you were tired. Sleep deprivation studies reveal just how essential sleep is for emotional stability. Researchers cannot ethically deprive people of sleep for long because the emotional deterioration is so severe. After 72 hours without sleep, participants show symptoms resembling psychosis, paranoia, hallucinations, emotional volatility, and impaired reality testing. Even moderate sleep restriction, 6 hours nightly for 2 weeks, produces emotional impairments equivalent to 2 full nights without sleep. Research combining data from numerous studies has concluded that sleep restriction universally impairs emotional regulation, with effects appearing after just 1 poor night. The consistency of these findings across cultures, ages, and study designs leaves no doubt. Sleep is not optional for emotional health. When sleep is compromised, emotional well-being invariably declines. The question isn't whether sleep matters for emotions. The evidence is overwhelming. The question is whether you're prioritizing it accordingly. The evidence is clear. Sleep doesn't just rest your body. It repairs your emotional brain, from amygdala recalibration to memory reconsolidation to stress hormone clearing. Multiple biological processes converge during sleep to heal emotional wounds. These aren't separate processes, but an integrated system, each component supporting the others. Your sleeping hours are not wasted time or necessary inconvenience. They are essential medicine, as critical to your emotional health as food is to your physical health. Every study, from imaging research to behavioral experiments to clinical trials, points to the same conclusion. Adequate sleep dramatically improves emotional regulation, resilience, and psychological well-being. Poor sleep dramatically impairs these same capacities. The relationship is consistent and profound. Understanding this science transforms how you view your own sleep. It's not indulgence or luxury. It's the foundation of your emotional life. The time when your brain becomes whole again after the fracturing of difficult days. Sleep provides the neurochemical environment necessary for processing emotions without being overwhelmed. During waking hours, your brain maintains high levels of norepinephrine and cortisol, chemicals that keep you alert but also keep emotional responses active and intense. During REM sleep, norepinephrine drops to nearly zero, creating a unique biochemical state. Your brain can access emotional memories while the physiological stress response is suppressed. It's like having a conversation about a difficult topic with the volume turned way down. You can hear the words without the overwhelming noise. This allows gradual desensitization to emotional triggers. Researchers found that disrupting this norepinephrine suppression during REM sleep prevents emotional memory processing. Even when people get adequate sleep duration, It's not just sleep that heals. It's the specific neurochemistry of undisturbed sleep stages. When anxiety, pain, or substances interrupt your sleep architecture, the healing simply cannot happen. Regardless of hours spent in bed, you're still here with me. Thoughts still flickering like candlelight in the darkness. Take a slow breath. Notice how your body feels now. Perhaps a little heavier, a little softer than when we began. We're exploring the science of emotional healing together, wandering through the landscape where psychology meets sleep, where understanding becomes peace. There's no rush, no destination except rest. Let's continue drifting. Deep sleep is when your brain washes away the chemical residue of stress. Throughout the day, metabolic waste products accumulate in brain tissue. During slow-wave deep sleep, cerebrospinal fluid flows through your brain in waves, literally flushing out toxins. Researchers discovered this glymphatic system using real-time brain imaging. The space between brain cells expands by 60% during deep sleep, allowing fluid to flow more freely and carry away waste products. This includes inflammatory molecules, metabolic waste from neural activity, and protein fragments that accumulate during emotional stress. Without adequate deep sleep, these substances build up like clutter, creating a toxic environment that clouds mood, impairs memory, and keeps emotions raw. This is why you might wake from a nap or short sleep still feeling emotionally fragile. You got some rest but didn't reach the deep stages necessary for this biological house cleaning. True emotional reset requires the thorough clearing that only deep sleep provides. Light sleep, often dismissed as less important, actually consolidates coping strategies. During stage 2 sleep, your brain replays recent learning experiences and integrates them into existing knowledge networks. This includes emotional learning, new ways of responding to stress, coping techniques you've tried, and insights you've gained about managing difficult feelings. Research has found that people who practiced stress reduction techniques during the day showed improved skill consolidation only if they subsequently got adequate stage 2 sleep. Without it, the techniques remained effortful and unreliable. Your brain needs to practice these new skills during sleep, essentially creating smoother neural pathways for emotional regulation. This is why therapy progress often happens in subtle jumps rather than smooth, linear improvement. The integration happens during sleep between sessions. Conscious learning during the day, plus unconscious integration during light sleep, equals lasting change in how you handle emotions. The 90-minute sleep cycle represents complete emotional processing. Each cycle begins with light sleep, descends into deep sleep for physical restoration, then ascends into REM sleep for emotional memory processing, before starting again. Missing any stage interrupts the process. Think of it like washing dishes. You need hot water to remove grease, soap to lift dirt, and rinsing to leave surfaces clean. Skip any step and dishes remain dirty. Research tracked people through full nights versus fragmented sleep with equal total duration. Those with fragmented sleep showed minimal emotional improvement despite equivalent time in bed because they never completed full cycles. Your brain needs to move through all stages in sequence for emotions to fully process. This is why sleep quality matters as much as quantity. Interrupted cycles, even with adequate hours, prevent complete emotional healing. One night of good sleep helps. but emotional healing requires consistency. Acute sleep recovery studies show that a single night of adequate rest improves mood and emotional regulation noticeably. However, lasting change requires weeks of consistent sleep. Researchers found that people needed at least 14 consecutive nights of adequate sleep before showing stable improvements in emotional reactivity, stress, resilience, and mood regulation. This is because emotional healing involves structural brain changes, growing new neural connections, strengthening regulatory pathways, and physically reorganizing memory networks. These changes happen gradually over multiple sleep cycles. Think of sleep like physical therapy for your emotional brain. One session helps, but recovery requires sustained treatment. This doesn't mean perfection. Occasional poor nights won't undo progress, but the pattern matters. Regular, adequate sleep allows your brain to complete the deep reorganization necessary for lasting emotional resilience. Healing happens slowly, night after night, while you simply rest. Each sleep stage plays a different role in your emotional recovery. Like instruments in an orchestra, deep sleep clears stress chemicals and provides the quiet darkness necessary for cellular repair. Light sleep consolidates new emotional skills and strengthens adaptive response patterns. REM, sleep processes emotional memories and generates psychological insight. Together, they create complete healing. Research using targeted sleep stage disruption has shown that preventing any single stage impaired emotional recovery, even when other stages remained intact. People deprived specifically of REM showed poor emotional memory processing. Those missing deep sleep showed persistent stress hormone elevation. Those with interrupted light sleep failed to retain new coping strategies. You need the full symphony of sleep stages for emotions to truly settle. This is why sleeping pills that suppress certain stages often fail to provide genuine emotional restoration despite producing unconsciousness. True sleep. Natural, complete, uninterrupted, is irreplaceable medicine. Sleep timing affects emotional processing quality. Your body's circadian rhythm coordinates when different sleep stages occur. Deep sleep concentrates in the first half of night, while REM sleep dominates the second half. Going to bed very late means you may miss peak deep sleep opportunity, even if you sleep adequate total hours. Researchers found that people sleeping midnight to 8 showed less emotional improvement than those sleeping 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Despite identical duration, the midnight group missed their optimal deep sleep window, when slow waves are strongest and stress clearing most effective. Similarly, waking very early truncates REM sleep, which accumulates toward morning. Your emotional healing depends not just on sleep duration, but on sleeping during your biological night, when sleep architecture aligns with circadian signals. You don't have to follow perfect schedules, but consistently sleeping during roughly the same nighttime window optimizes your brain's natural emotional repair processes. Sleep is both preventive and restorative for emotional health. It prevents new emotional difficulties from developing while simultaneously healing existing wounds. This dual function makes sleep uniquely powerful. People with good sleep habits show remarkable resilience when facing stressful life events. They process challenges more smoothly, experience less intense emotional reactions, and recover more quickly. Meanwhile, people already experiencing emotional distress find that improving sleep can gradually reverse accumulated damage. Research following people improving their sleep quality over 6 months found that even those with chronic anxiety and depression showed measurable improvement in symptoms, some equivalent to modest improvements from medication or therapy. Sleep works both as shield, protecting you from future emotional damage, and as medicine healing past emotional wounds. This is why protecting your sleep should be a top priority, regardless of your current emotional state. Prevention when you're well. Intervention when you're struggling. The emotional benefits of sleep compound over time. Just as chronic sleep deprivation creates escalating problems, each poor night making the next day harder, which makes the next night worse. Adequate sleep creates an upward spiral. Each good night makes emotional regulation slightly easier the next day. Easier days mean less accumulated stress by evening. Less stress means deeper sleep that night. Research identified this positive feedback loop, showing that people who improved sleep quality experienced accelerating emotional benefits over 12 weeks. Month 1 showed modest improvement. Month 2 showed significant gains. Month 3 showed transformative change. The brain's neuroplasticity requires time to reorganize. But once new patterns establish, they become self-reinforcing. Your brain gets better at sleeping, and better sleep makes your brain healthier, which improves sleep further. Starting the upward spiral requires initial effort, but momentum builds naturally. Once consistent sleep becomes your norm. Why one night isn't enough? Healing takes repetition, because memory reconsolidation happens gradually. Each time you sleep, your brain processes a portion of accumulated emotional material. Complex or intense emotions require multiple nights to fully integrate. Like layers of sediment settling slowly in still water, each night allows another layer of experience to find its proper place in memory. Research tracked emotional memory processing across multiple nights, finding that difficult memories were revisited during REM sleep over several consecutive nights, each time with slightly reduced emotional intensity. By night 5 or 6, the memories had been fully edited, retaining factual content but losing their power to trigger strong emotional reactions. This explains why grief, trauma, and heartbreak heal gradually rather than suddenly. Your brain is patiently working through the material night after night. Halfway through, the answer is forming. Sleep heals through cycles, not single moments, through consistency rather than intensity. Understanding that sleep is a multi-stage, multi-night process changes how you approach emotional healing. Instead of expecting immediate resolution, you can trust a gradual process. Each night contributes to healing, even when you don't consciously feel better in the morning. Your brain is making microscopic changes, weakening over reactive pathways, strengthening regulatory connections, reorganizing memory networks that accumulate over time into noticeable emotional shifts. Research shows that people who understand sleep's role in emotional healing are more patient with themselves, less discouraged by temporary setbacks, and more likely to prioritize sleep consistently. This knowledge itself reduces anxiety about healing. You're not broken or defective if emotions persist. You're simply mid-process, and the process requires time. Trust that each night's sleep is working. Even when progress feels invisible, you don't have to have it all figured out tonight. Healing doesn't happen on your timeline. It happens while you rest, on biology's timeline. Halfway through our journey together, Perhaps you're feeling your body growing heavier, your thoughts becoming softer. This is exactly right. Let's pause here and notice where you are. Breathe slowly and notice this present moment. Not where you were, not where you'll be tomorrow. Just right now. Feel your body's weight, the surface beneath you, the air moving through your lungs. In this exact second, you are safe. Whatever happened before has already happened. Whatever comes next hasn't arrived yet. Right now, in this breath, this heartbeat, this moment, you can let everything else fade. Your only task right now is simply existing, simply breathing, simply being. Time continues flowing, but you can rest here in this still point, this eternal now, where nothing is required of you except presence. And we continue the journey. Sleep regulates the prefrontal cortex, your brain's emotional control center. This region, located behind your forehead, is responsible for rational thinking, impulse control, and emotional regulation. When well rested, your prefrontal cortex can moderate your amygdala's alarm signals, helping you respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. But the prefrontal cortex is exquisitely sensitive to sleep loss. Even one night of poor sleep significantly impairs its function. Researchers found that after sleep deprivation, the connection between prefrontal cortex and amygdala weakens by 50%. Your emotional brake system stops working properly. This is why everything feels more overwhelming when exhausted. Small problems trigger big reactions because your brain's regulatory systems are offline. Sleep restores prefrontal cortex function completely. After adequate rest, your higher reasoning can once again calm your emotional responses, creating that crucial space between feeling and reacting where wisdom lives. Morning perspective differs from nighttime perspective because of sleep-related emotional recalibration. People consistently rate the same situations as less distressing in the morning than they did the previous evening. This isn't just feeling rested, it's neurological reorganization. During sleep, your brain adjusts the emotional weight assigned to various concerns, essentially recalibrating your priority system. Research has shown that worries rated as extremely important before bed were re-rated as moderately important after sleep by the same individuals, with no change in circumstances. Your sleeping brain has contextualized concerns within a broader perspective, reducing their relative importance. This is the biological basis of the wisdom sleep on it before making decisions. Your nighttime brain is biased toward threat and worry. Your morning brain, refreshed by sleep's emotional editing, can assess situations more accurately and respond more effectively to actual rather than perceived danger. Sleep processes different types of emotions in specific ways. Grief processing happens primarily during late-night REM sleep, when the brain can safely revisit loss without overwhelming sorrow. Anxiety reduction occurs during deep sleep, when the amygdala's connectivity to worry networks weakens. Anger resolution happens during the transition between sleep stages, when the prefrontal cortex reorganizes response priorities. Research tracked people through targeted emotional challenges: grief, anxiety, anger, and found that sleep architecture adapted to emphasize whichever processing was most needed. After bereavement, REM sleep increased. After anxiety-inducing days, deep sleep lengthened. After interpersonal conflict, transitional sleep expanded. Your brain knows what you need and adjusts your sleep accordingly. This is why forcing yourself awake when emotionally distressed is counterproductive. Your sleep would have customized itself to process whatever you're experiencing. Trust your brain's intelligence. When emotions surge, sleep is often the wisest response. Sleep's role in processing grief is particularly important because grief is not a problem to solve, but a process to complete. When you lose someone or something significant, your brain must reorganize countless memories, associations, and expectations. This reorganization happens primarily during REM sleep. Research followed bereaved individuals and found that those who slept adequately showed gradual but steady grief integration. Painful memories remained, but became more bearable over weeks. Those with poor sleep showed complicated grief. Memories stayed raw and overwhelming for months longer. During REM sleep, your brain revisits loss-related memories in that norepinephrine-suppressed state, gradually removing the overwhelming emotional charge while preserving the love and meaning. This is why grief feels slightly more bearable after good sleep. Not because you've forgotten, but because your brain has gently edited the intensity while maintaining the importance. Sleep doesn't diminish love. It makes love sustainable through loss. Sleep helps process trauma differently than ordinary stress. Traumatic memories often fragment and become stuck in a perpetually activated state, constantly triggering as if the danger is still present. During sleep, particularly REM sleep, the brain can begin integrating these fragments into coherent narrative that feels clearly past tense. Research has found that trauma survivors who engaged in trauma-focused therapy combined with sleep showed significantly better outcomes than therapy alone. Sleep allowed the therapeutic work to consolidate and the brain to reorganize traumatic memories into less triggering formats. However, severely disrupted sleep, common with PTSD, prevents this healing, creating a difficult cycle. Treating sleep disturbance becomes essential to trauma recovery. When sleep improves, trauma processing accelerates. The sleeping brain has remarkable capacity to heal even severe psychological wounds, but it requires opportunity. Consistent, adequate, quality sleep sustained over time. Healing is possible, but it needs the foundation of rest. Sleep regulates neurotransmitter systems essential for mood stability. Serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine all depend on sleep for proper function. During sleep, your brain restores optimal levels of these chemicals and resets receptor sensitivity. Sleep deprivation causes neurotransmitter depletion similar to depression. Low serotonin reduces happiness. Depleted dopamine decreases motivation. And irregular norepinephrine creates anxiety. Research has found that several nights of restricted sleep produced neurotransmitter profiles resembling clinical depression, even in previously healthy individuals. Conversely, when people with mild depression improved their sleep, many showed spontaneous mood improvement without other intervention. This doesn't mean sleep cures depression. Severe depression requires comprehensive treatment, but it does mean that protecting sleep is essential for mood stability. Every night, you sleep well. You're biochemically supporting your emotional health. Every night of poor sleep, you're depleting the very chemicals necessary for feeling okay. Why morning perspective differs. During sleep, your brain reorganizes memory networks. Memories aren't stored in single locations like files in a cabinet. They're distributed networks of connections across brain regions. When you sleep, these networks get restructured. Connections that were strong, immediate emotional reactions, may weaken, while connections that were weak, broader context, alternative perspectives, may strengthen. Research has found that the same memory accessed before and after sleep activates different neural patterns. Post-sleep patterns include more prefrontal cortex involvement, indicating enhanced cognitive control and perspective. This is the neural basis of things will seem better in the morning. Your brain has literally rewired how you access and interpret the situation. The facts haven't changed, but the network of associations and emotions connected to those facts has been reorganized. This is why sleep on it is ancient wisdom backed by modern neuroscience. Sleep provides emotional distance without emotional disconnection. After processing difficult experiences through sleep, you can remember events clearly while feeling less overwhelmed by them. The memory becomes cool rather than hot, factually accessible but emotionally manageable. This is different from suppression, where memories are blocked, or dissociation, where you feel disconnected from your own experiences. Sleep-processed memories remain integrated and meaningful, but lose their capacity to hijack your nervous system. Research has found that people who slept after emotional events reported feeling at peace with what happened, rather than over it or having forgotten it. The nuance matters. Sleep creates mature acceptance, rather than avoidance or denial. You can acknowledge difficult truths without being destroyed by them. This is emotional wisdom, holding pain without being consumed by it, remembering loss without being lost in it. This is why sleeping on it works for both emotional and practical decisions. Sleep reorganizes priorities, reveals overlooked information, and generates novel perspectives. The emotional recalibration helps you assess situations based on actual importance rather than immediate stress response. Research tracked people making various decisions with and without intervening sleep. Sleep-informed decisions were rated as wiser and more aligned with long-term values when evaluated months later. Decisions made while exhausted were more reactive, more focused on short-term relief, and more frequently regretted. Your brain is protecting you from being overwhelmed by processing emotions gradually during sleep, not all at once while you're trying to function. When facing important choices about relationships, careers, or life direction, sleeping provides your wisest self the opportunity to emerge. Morning clarity isn't magical thinking. It's neurological reality based on sleep's reorganizing effects. Sleep makes therapy more effective by consolidating therapeutic insights. When you learn new perspectives or coping skills in therapy, that learning needs to integrate into your brain's existing networks. This integration happens primarily during sleep. Research has found that therapy clients who slept adequately between sessions showed substantially greater improvement than sleep-deprived clients receiving identical therapy. Sleep doesn't replace therapy, but it multiplies therapy's effectiveness by allowing conscious learning to become unconscious skill. The coping strategies discussed in session become automatic responses through sleep-based consolidation. The insights gained consciously get woven into your broader understanding during sleep. This is why therapists often see progress in jumps rather than smooth lines. Clients have sessions. Sleep processes the content, and they return with deeper integration. If you're in therapy, Prioritizing sleep might be the most important thing you can do to support your treatment progress. Chronic sleep loss creates vulnerability to developing anxiety disorders. The relationship works in both directions. Anxiety disrupts sleep, and poor sleep worsens anxiety. But research suggests sleep loss often comes first. Longitudinal studies following adolescents for many years found that sleep problems predicted later anxiety disorders with high accuracy, even controlling for current anxiety levels. The mechanism involves the amygdala's increased reactivity and the prefrontal cortex's decreased regulation. Over time, this imbalance creates a brain that interprets neutral situations as threatening. Small uncertainties feel overwhelming. Minor risks seem difficult to face. The world feels uncertain because your sleep-deprived brain is wired for threat detection with impaired perspective. Addressing sleep early can prevent anxiety from developing or stop mild anxiety from progressing to disorder. Sleep is not the only factor in anxiety, but it's a modifiable factor with profound effects on emotional resilience. Sleep protects against depression through multiple biological pathways. Adequate sleep maintains neurotransmitter balance, supports neuroplasticity, reduces inflammation, regulates stress hormones, and preserves emotional regulation capacity. Each pathway alone contributes to mood stability. Together, they create robust protection against depressive symptoms. Research has found that people consistently sleeping 7 to 8 hours nightly had significantly lower rates of depression compared to those sleeping less than 6 hours. Even when controlling for other factors, the relationship persists across age groups, cultures, and life circumstances. While depression is complex, with multiple causes, sleep disturbance appears in nearly every case. Treating sleep issues doesn't cure depression, but it removes a major maintenance factor. Think of sleep as the foundation. You can build therapeutic interventions, medication, lifestyle changes on this foundation, but without it, everything stands on unstable ground. Sleep's anti-inflammatory effects directly impact emotional health. Chronic inflammation affects brain function, particularly in regions regulating mood. When inflammatory molecules cross the blood-brain barrier, they disrupt neurotransmitter production and impair neural signaling. This inflammatory depression is increasingly recognized as a distinct subtype. Sleep naturally reduces inflammation. During deep sleep, anti-inflammatory proteins increase, while pro-inflammatory markers decrease. Research has found that even one night of good sleep reduced inflammatory markers substantially. Conversely, sleep deprivation causes immediate inflammation elevation. This bidirectional relationship means sleep is both preventive and therapeutic for inflammation-related mood problems. People with inflammatory conditions, autoimmune diseases, chronic pain, recurring infections, often experience depression that improves substantially when sleep quality improves. The connection between physical inflammation and emotional suffering isn't mysterious. It's mediated by measurable biological processes that sleep directly influences. Healing your sleep may simultaneously heal both your body and your mood. This is why sleep is the key to emotional healing. It's the only time your brain can process pain without defense mechanisms interfering. During waking hours, your conscious mind protects you from overwhelming feelings through various defense mechanisms: rationalization, distraction, suppression, denial. These defenses serve important purposes. but they also prevent deep processing. During sleep, particularly REM sleep, your conscious defenses relax. Your brain can approach painful material without the ego's protective interference. Think of it like a skilled surgeon who can operate only when the patient is anesthetized. Your sleeping brain can perform delicate emotional surgery that waking consciousness would resist. Research has found that emotional breakthroughs often follow nights of intense dreaming, as if the sleeping brain solved problems that the waking mind couldn't access. Your consciousness guards you during the day. Your unconscious heals you at night. Both are necessary for complete emotional health. Sleep enables emotional learning, your capacity to update how you respond to situations. When you encounter emotional challenges, your brain can either repeat old patterns or develop new responses. Learning new patterns requires neuroplasticity, which is dramatically enhanced during sleep. Researchers found that people who practiced emotional regulation techniques showed improvement only after sleeping. The practice created possibility. Sleep made it reality by physically rewiring neural pathways. This explains why knowing better doesn't automatically mean doing better. Insight alone isn't sufficient. Your brain needs sleep to transform knowledge into skill. If you're frustrated that you still react the same way despite understanding why you shouldn't, the issue might not be insufficient willpower, but insufficient sleep. Your brain is trying to change, but it needs the neuroplastic environment that only sleep provides. Patience with yourself and prioritization of sleep may accomplish what self-criticism cannot. Sleep deprivation impairs your ability to perceive positive emotions in others. Research has found that sleep-deprived people interpret neutral facial expressions as threatening and smiles as neutral, essentially filtering out positive social signals. This creates a difficult cycle. You feel isolated, but you're missing connection cues that exist. Others offer comfort, but you can't perceive it. The world seems harsher than it is because your perceptual system is biased toward threat. When you improve sleep, the world doesn't necessarily change, but your perception of it shifts dramatically. Suddenly you notice kindness you were missing. Support that was present becomes visible. This isn't just pleasant, it's therapeutic. Social connection is one of the most powerful healers of emotional pain, but you can only benefit from connection you perceive. Sleep restores your ability to see the good alongside the difficult, to notice care alongside hurt. Your emotional healing requires accurate perception, which requires adequate rest. Children and adolescents need even more sleep for emotional development. Young brains are building emotional regulation systems from scratch, making sleep particularly crucial. Studies show that children who consistently sleep adequately develop better emotional awareness, empathy, and self-regulation skills. Sleep-deprived children show higher rates of behavioral problems, emotional outbursts, and difficulty with peer relationships. Research found that sleep quality during childhood predicted emotional health in early adulthood more strongly than many other factors. Parents prioritizing their children's sleep are literally shaping their emotional brains. But this also applies to remembering your own childhood. If you struggled emotionally as a young person, unaddressed sleep issues may have been contributing factors. Understanding this can reduce self-blame. You weren't defective. Your developing brain may have lacked the sleep it needed to build healthy emotional systems. Healing now is still possible through the same pathway, prioritizing consistent, adequate sleep Sleep is both universal and personal in its healing effects. Everyone needs sleep to process emotions. This is human biology, consistent across cultures and individuals. However, optimal sleep duration varies slightly by person. Some people genuinely need 7 hours. Others need 9. Your specific needs depend on genetics, health status, stress levels, and age. Research has found that people sleeping their personally optimal duration showed significantly better emotional regulation than those sleeping generic recommendations that didn't match their individual needs. Pay attention to your own patterns. How much sleep leaves you feeling emotionally balanced? That's your target, regardless of averages. Also remember that needs change. During stressful periods, during illness, or during emotional healing, you may need more sleep than usual. Listen to your body's signals. Your emotional wisdom includes knowing when you need more rest than circumstances seem to allow. Honor that knowledge. Chronic insomnia creates a specific type of emotional suffering. When you want to sleep but cannot, the frustration compounds emotional distress. You're carrying both the original emotional pain and the additional burden of sleep failure. Research shows that treating insomnia often requires addressing both physiological sleep disruption and the anxiety about sleep that develops. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is highly effective, working by changing relationships with sleep and bedtime rather than forcing sleep to happen. The paradox of sleep is that trying to make it happen prevents it from happening. Releasing the struggle, accepting wakefulness without panic, and trusting your body's eventual sleep drive often work better than effort. If you've been fighting insomnia while simultaneously trying to heal emotionally, perhaps the first step is making peace with wakefulness. Your body hasn't forgotten how to sleep. It's waiting for safety and permission. Sometimes, surrender is the pathway back to rest. Sleep's effects on emotional health extend beyond individual nights to create long-term resilience. People who consistently sleep well don't just feel better day to day. They develop robust emotional resilience that protects them during inevitable life challenges. Think of sleep as building an emotional savings account. Each good night deposits reserves you can draw on during difficult times. Research has found that people with histories of consistently adequate sleep showed significantly better coping during major life stresses. Job loss, relationship endings, health crises. Compared to those with poor sleep histories facing identical challenges, the well-rested group experienced comparable emotional pain but recovered faster and experienced fewer long-term mental health consequences. Sleep doesn't prevent life's difficulties, but it profoundly affects your capacity to navigate them. Building sleep resilience before crisis hits is like building physical fitness before illness strikes. You don't know when you'll need it, but having it makes all the difference. Seasonal changes affect sleep and emotional health together. Shorter daylight hours in winter reduce melatonin regulation and disrupt circadian rhythms, contributing to seasonal affective disorder. People living in northern latitudes show higher rates of winter depression strongly correlated with sleep disruption. Light exposure, particularly morning light, helps regulate both sleep and mood. Research has found that light therapy improved sleep quality, which then improved mood, suggesting sleep mediation as a key mechanism. If you notice seasonal patterns in your emotional health, addressing sleep quality might be more effective than waiting out the season. Strategic light exposure, consistent sleep schedules, and awareness of your body's light needs can maintain sleep quality despite seasonal changes. Your emotional health follows your sleep health, which follows your circadian health, which follows light exposure patterns. Sometimes healing means working with biology's deep rhythms rather than fighting them. Medications that help sleep don't always provide the same emotional benefits as natural sleep. Some sleep medications suppress certain sleep stages, particularly REM, or deep sleep, meaning you're unconscious but missing crucial emotional processing stages. Research comparing various sleep medications with natural sleep found that medication-induced sleep provided physical rest but less emotional restoration. While sleep medications serve important roles in crisis situations, long-term emotional healing requires working toward natural sleep architecture. This doesn't mean medications are wrong. Sometimes they're necessary to break insomnia cycles. But the goal should be eventually achieving natural sleep, where your brain can move through all stages in appropriate proportions. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, sleep hygiene, stress reduction, and addressing underlying conditions often provide more lasting emotional benefits than medication alone. If you're taking sleep medications, work with your healthcare provider on whether they're still serving your best interests. Alcohol disrupts sleep's emotional healing despite feeling relaxing. While alcohol may help you fall asleep initially, it significantly impairs sleep quality, particularly REM sleep during the second half of night. This is exactly when emotional memory processing happens. Research has found that people using alcohol as a sleep aid showed markedly impaired emotional recovery compared to those sleeping naturally. Despite similar total sleep duration, they woke feeling physically rested but emotionally unreleased, carrying the same emotional weight day after day. Alcohol essentially anesthetizes you without allowing the brain's natural healing processes to function. Over time, this creates dependency. You can't sleep without alcohol, but the alcohol prevents healing, maintaining the emotional distress that disrupted sleep originally. If you're using alcohol for sleep, you deserve compassionate support in finding alternatives that actually allow emotional processing to occur. Rest without healing isn't enough. Sleep is not the only medicine, but it's the foundation for all healing. Therapy, medication, social support, exercise, nutrition, and meaning-making all contribute to emotional recovery. However, without adequate sleep, each of these becomes less effective. Therapy insights don't consolidate. Medications work less reliably. Social connections feel harder to maintain. Exercise depletes rather than energizes. Healthy food doesn't translate to healthy mood. Life's meaning becomes obscured. Research tested the effectiveness of various interventions, with and without sleep optimization. Every single intervention showed enhanced effects when combined with sleep improvement. Some interventions showed minimal effect without adequate sleep. The pattern is clear. Sleep is the foundation. Build on it. But don't expect anything to work properly without it. Perhaps you're tired of being tired. That's okay. That's exactly why you're here. And it's exactly why understanding sleep's role matters. You're not failing at healing. You're learning what healing actually requires. Rest. So yes, sleep is the key to emotional healing. Not the only key, but the master key that allows all other healing mechanisms to work. From amygdala recalibration to memory reconsolidation, from neurotransmitter restoration to neuroplastic change. The biological processes of emotional recovery require specific sleep stages in consistent patterns over time. This isn't metaphorical or theoretical. It's measurable neuroscience. When you protect your sleep, you're not being indulgent or lazy. You're providing your brain the conditions it needs to heal from emotional wounds, as surely as your body needs rest to heal from physical injuries. Every night you sleep well is a night of active healing happening below conscious awareness. Your sleeping brain is remarkably intelligent, remarkably capable, remarkably devoted to your well-being. Trust it. Give it the opportunity to work. The healing you've been seeking may be waiting for you in the darkness behind closed eyes. In the surrender of sleep, breathe deeply and feel the rhythm. Your breath moves in cycles. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. A pattern as old as life itself. Your emotions also move in cycles. Sadness rises and falls. Anxiety peaks and recedes. Even grief, which feels permanent, changes intensity across hours, days, seasons. Nothing stays forever. Everything flows. You are resting now in the space between one moment and the next. One breath and another. One feeling and what comes after. Let yourself float on these natural rhythms like a leaf on water, rising and falling with gentle waves but never sinking. Your emotions are weather patterns passing through vast inner sky. Watch them drift. You are the sky, not the weather. We continue now toward rest. Healing requires letting go of control, which is difficult when you're in pain. When emotions hurt, the natural response is gripping tighter, trying harder, forcing solutions. But emotional healing often requires the opposite: release, softness, surrender. Research shows that people who can tolerate distress without immediately trying to fix it recover more fully than those who frantically seek relief. This doesn't mean passivity or resignation. It means creating space for healing processes to unfold at their own pace. Sleep is the ultimate practice in healthy surrender. You cannot force sleep. You can only create conditions and allow it to happen. Similarly, you cannot force emotional healing. You can only create conditions. Rest, safety, time, and allow your brain to do what it evolved to do. Sleep is where you practice dying to today and being reborn tomorrow. Each night, your conscious self dissolves, your identity loosens, your problems fade. For hours, you exist beyond thinking, beyond worrying, beyond being the person you are during the day. Then morning comes and you return, slightly different from who you were. Sleep is daily practice in letting go of who you've been and allowing who you're becoming to emerge. This is especially important during emotional healing. The self that was hurt needs space to transform. The identity you've been carrying, the grieving one, the anxious one, the heartbroken one, needs to loosen so a new self can form. Sleep provides that space. You surrender today's version and wake as tomorrow's version. Slightly healed, slightly renewed. Your emotions are information, not punishment. When sadness arises, it's your mind processing loss. When anxiety appears, it's your nervous system scanning for safety. When anger emerges, it's your sense of boundaries asserting itself. These emotions aren't problems to eliminate. They're signals providing guidance. The problem comes when emotions persist because you haven't listened to their message or provided the processing time they require. Sleep allows emotional information to be received, understood, and integrated. Your brain sorts through emotional signals, extracting meaning and releasing what no longer serves you. Research has found that people who viewed emotions as information rather than intrusions showed better sleep quality and faster emotional recovery. When you stop fighting your feelings and start listening to them, you reduce the stress that disrupts sleep. There is profound wisdom in your body's demand for rest when emotions overwhelm. When you're emotionally exhausted, your body makes you physically tired, pulling you towards sleep even when tasks remain. This isn't weakness or avoidance. It's your body's intelligence protecting you from emotional overload. Your system knows it cannot process more input, cannot handle additional stress, cannot function safely without rest. The exhaustion is a boundary, a limit, a protective signal. Research has found that people who honored fatigue during emotional crises recovered faster than those who pushed through exhaustion. Your tiredness is not something to overcome with willpower or caffeine. It's wisdom from your deepest self. When your body says, sleep, it's saying, I need time to heal what you've been through. Listening is strength. Sleep connects you to your unconscious mind, which holds wisdom your conscious mind cannot access. During waking hours, you operate from conscious awareness, thoughts, plans, rational analysis. But beneath consciousness lies deeper knowing, intuition, pattern recognition, emotional truth, body wisdom. Sleep is when these levels communicate. Dreams bring unconscious material into symbolic form. Body sensations during sleep release tensions consciousness holds. Emotional processing during REM integrates experiences in ways rational thought cannot. People who pay attention to dreams and body signals during sleep develop better emotional awareness. Your conscious mind works hard to keep you functional, but it doesn't have complete information. Your unconscious holds emotional truths you're not ready to consciously acknowledge. Sleep creates a bridge, allowing wisdom to flow gently from deep places into awareness. The paradox of emotional healing. You must feel pain to release pain. Avoiding emotions provides temporary relief but prevents healing. Real recovery requires approaching pain, not running from it. Yet approaching pain during waking hours risks overwhelm. Sleep solves this paradox by allowing your brain to approach emotional pain in a regulated way. During REM sleep, you can revisit difficult experiences without full emotional activation. Close enough to process, distant enough to tolerate. This is the genius of sleep's healing mechanism. Your brain doesn't force you to confront more than you can handle, but it doesn't let you avoid what needs processing either. It finds the middle path, safe exposure that gradually desensitizes without re-traumatizing. Trust this process. Your brain knows how to pace your healing. Every night is an act of courage. To sleep is to release control, to trust that consciousness will return, to surrender to vulnerability. When you've been hurt, when life feels unsafe, when emotions overwhelm, choosing sleep requires remarkable bravery. You're allowing yourself to be undefended, unguarded, open. You're trusting that the darkness is safe, that the unconscious journey will return you transformed rather than destroyed. You're believing healing is possible when evidence suggests otherwise. This trust is not naive. It's deeply wise. Your body knows what it needs, even when your mind doubts. Each time you close your eyes despite fear, you're choosing faith over anxiety, hope over despair, rest over vigilance. Every night you sleep through pain is a victory. Every morning you wake still here is proof of your resilience. Sleep makes you more compassionate toward yourself. Research shows that sleep-deprived people have harsher inner critics, more negative self-talk, and less self-forgiveness. Well-rested people show measurably more self-compassion. This happens because adequate sleep restores the prefrontal cortex's ability to provide perspective and reduces overall stress reactivity. When you're exhausted, your own mind attacks you. You should be over this by now. Everyone else manages better. You're too sensitive. These thoughts aren't truth. They're symptoms of sleep deprivation affecting your internal narrative. After good sleep, your inner voice softens. This is hard. You're doing your best. Healing takes time. The facts of your situation haven't changed, but your relationship with yourself transforms. Perhaps you're not as broken as your tired mind claims. Perhaps rest will reveal a gentler truth. Every night you practice dying to today and being reborn tomorrow. Slightly different, slightly renewed. The you who goes to sleep is not identical to the you who wakes. Neural connections have been pruned and strengthened. Memories have been reorganized. Stress chemicals have been cleared. You are physically, neurologically, chemically transformed by sleep. This is why morning brings new perspective. You're literally a different version of yourself, one that's rested, processed, and recalibrated. Ancient wisdom understood this. Many cultures speak of sleep as small death, morning as rebirth. Modern neuroscience confirms the metaphor is biological fact. Your consciousness dissolves nightly. Your identity loosens. You return changed. During emotional healing, this nightly transformation is particularly powerful. The self that carries today's pain doesn't have to be the self that carries tomorrow's. Sleep doesn't fix you because you were never broken. Emotional pain is not malfunction. It's appropriate response to difficult circumstances. Sadness after loss, anxiety facing uncertainty, grief through change. These are signs your emotional system is working correctly, not failing. Sleep doesn't repair defects. It supports natural healing processes that would happen anyway, just slower and more painfully without adequate rest. Research has found that reframing emotional struggles as natural processes rather than personal failures reduced shame and improved treatment engagement. You don't need fixing. You need time, safety, and the right conditions for your inherent healing capacity to work. Sleep provides those conditions. When you prioritize rest, you're not admitting weakness or giving up. You're honoring that healing requires certain biological necessities. This is human design functioning as intended. Your sadness, your anger, your fear. They're not enemies. They're messengers asking you to rest, to pay attention, to create space for healing. When you feel intensely, it's not a sign something is wrong with you. It's a sign you're human, alive, responsive to your experiences. Your emotions are evidence of depth, sensitivity, care. They hurt because you're capable of feeling, which is a profound gift even when it doesn't feel like one. Sleep allows you to honor these emotional messengers without being overwhelmed by them. During waking hours, intense emotions can flood your system beyond capacity. During sleep, your brain can listen to emotional messages in manageable doses, extracting wisdom without drowning in intensity. The goal isn't to stop feeling, it's to feel in ways that inform rather than destroy you. Each night, your brain sorts the day's emotional experiences like a librarian organizing books. Important moments stay close. Painful memories move to quieter shelves where they inform without overwhelming. You don't direct this. It happens naturally while you rest. Research shows this organization prioritizes personal significance, de-emphasizes trivial details, and creates coherent narrative from scattered events. Your only job is closing your eyes and trusting. The sorting happens automatically, as natural as breathing. Whether you understand it or believe in it, your inner wisdom knows how to organize experiences in ways that serve your well-being. Sleep is where the work happens without effort, where healing unfolds without force. Sleep is the space between who you were and who you're becoming. During major life transitions, grief, divorce, career change, identity shifts, sleep becomes especially crucial because you're literally reorganizing your sense of self. Old narratives dissolve. New possibilities emerge. This reorganization cannot happen while you're actively being the person you've been. It requires the loosening of identity that sleep provides. Research has found that people navigating major transitions who prioritized sleep adapted more successfully, with less anxiety and more coherent sense of emerging identity. Those who pushed through exhaustion struggled longer, clinging to old identities that no longer fit. If you're in transition, your sleep isn't luxury. It's necessity. The you that you're grieving doesn't have to disappear. They can transform, but transformation requires the vulnerable space of deep rest. So why is sleep key to emotional healing? Because it's where you stop fighting and start trusting. During waking hours, you manage, control, analyze, cope, push through. You're doing your best to function despite pain. But constant effort prevents the deep healing that only surrender allows. Sleep is where effort ends and natural healing processes engage. Your conscious mind steps back. Your defenses lower. Your body's ancient wisdom takes over. This isn't weakness. It's accessing healing capacities beyond conscious control. Every system in your body knows how to heal itself, given the right conditions. Bones knit after breaking. Skin closes over wounds. The immune system fights infections. Similarly, your emotional brain knows how to reorganize pain, integrate difficult experiences, and restore regulation. But it cannot work while you're actively managing everything. You cannot think your way to emotional healing, but you can sleep your way toward it. Insight is valuable. Understanding matters. But knowledge alone doesn't complete healing. Your brain needs time in specific neurological states to implement what consciousness understands. This is why people often say, "I know I shouldn't feel this way, but I still do." The knowing exists in prefrontal cortex, but the feeling exists in amygdala, hippocampus, and body. These systems don't speak the language of rational thought. They speak the language of repeated experience, neurochemical environment, and sleep-based consolidation. During sleep, conscious insights can translate into unconscious change. What you know in your head becomes what you feel in your body. This integration cannot be forced or rushed. It unfolds at the pace of neural reorganization. Night after night, your emotions don't need your permission to heal. They just need your rest. You don't have to figure everything out tonight. You don't have to understand why you feel what you feel, or how long healing will take, or whether you're doing it correctly. Healing isn't a test you pass or fail. It's a biological process that unfolds when conditions allow. The main condition required is rest. Not perfect rest. Not endless rest. Just consistent, adequate rest over time. Research consistently shows that people who surrender to not knowing, who rest despite uncertainty, who sleep even when resolution feels distant, these people heal, not because they're doing something clever, but because they're creating space for biology to work. Your body knows the path even when your mind is lost. All humans heal through sleep this way. Across every culture, every age, every circumstance. Sleep provides emotional restoration. A mother grieving in Tokyo, a man anxious in Cairo, a teenager heartbroken in Seattle, all healing through the same biological processes while they sleep. You are not alone in your suffering or your healing. Billions of humans share this same pathway. Pain in daylight, processing in darkness, gradual recovery over time. This universality matters because it reminds you that emotional pain and the need for rest are not personal failures but human experiences. You're not uniquely broken or specially weak. You're human, which means you feel deeply, hurt genuinely, and heal gradually through rest. Everyone who has ever loved and lost needed sleep to integrate their experiences. Sleep won't solve everything. Mourning won't bring miracles. Circumstances may remain difficult, but rest provides the foundation from which you can engage with challenges more skillfully. Sleep won't make grief disappear, but it will make grief more bearable. It won't eliminate anxiety, but it will reduce anxious intensity and improve your capacity to cope. It won't fix relationships, but it will restore your ability to engage thoughtfully rather than react automatically. Research shows that people who sleep well don't necessarily have easier lives. They have better capacity to navigate difficulty. Same challenges, different resources to meet them. This is realistic hope. Not that sleep magically fixes everything, but that it restores your fundamental capacity to cope with what cannot be fixed, to accept what cannot be changed. Perhaps you came here tonight carrying emotional weight you don't know how to set down. Perhaps you're tired of being tired, sad about being sad, anxious about being anxious. Perhaps you've been trying so hard to heal that you've forgotten. Healing also requires not trying. Sleep is the ultimate not trying. The complete release of effort. The full surrender to processes beyond your control. When you sleep deeply tonight, your brain will work on your behalf, sorting experiences, clearing stress chemicals, reorganizing pain, strengthening resilience. You won't feel it happening. You won't direct it. You'll simply rest, and healing will occur in the darkness, in the mystery, in the biological wisdom that has sustained humans through countless generations of suffering. You are safe here. Nothing is required of you now. Sleep is not escape from life. It's deeper engagement with life beneath the surface. When you sleep, you're not avoiding reality. You're accessing a different level of reality where psychological truth emerges, where emotional wisdom resides, where healing originates. Dreams don't distract you from what matters. They show you what matters beneath conscious awareness. Rest doesn't postpone your problems. It transforms your capacity to meet them. Research has found that people who valued sleep as part of emotional life rather than interruption to emotional life showed significantly better mental health. They weren't sleeping to escape feelings. They were sleeping to process feelings. This distinction matters. When you choose sleep tonight, you're not giving up or checking out. You're leaning into the deepest healing available. You're trusting the wisdom of rest. Every difficult emotion you've carried today will be softer tomorrow if you sleep tonight. Not gone, perhaps. Not resolved completely, but softer, more manageable, a little more integrated. This is the gift of sleep. Gradual, persistent, reliable healing that accumulates over time. Night after night, your brain works on your behalf, creating incremental change that eventually becomes transformation. You don't need dramatic breakthroughs. You need consistent rest, allowing subtle shifts that compound over weeks and months. Research shows most emotional healing happens through this gradual process rather than sudden insight. Small changes in neural connectivity, slight reductions in amygdala reactivity, modest improvements in emotional flexibility, each individually unnoticeable, but collectively transformative. Trust the process. Trust the timing. Your only task tonight is surrendering to sleep. There is a version of you waiting on the other side of rest who is calmer, clearer, more capable of holding both pain and peace. That version isn't different from who you are. It's who you become when your nervous system is regulated, your stress hormones are balanced, and your brain has had time to organize experiences coherently. That version of you already exists within you, waiting for the conditions that allow them to emerge. Sleep creates those conditions. Not perfectly, not instantly, but consistently. Research followed people improving sleep over 3 months. They described feeling like themselves again, like a fog had lifted, like they'd been operating through thick glass that suddenly cleared. They hadn't become someone new. They'd returned to their baseline capacity beneath exhaustion. Perhaps you've forgotten what regulated feels like. Tonight can begin remembering. Healing is not linear. Some nights you'll sleep well and wake refreshed. Other nights, sleep will be elusive and morning will feel heavy. Both are part of the process. Progress is not smooth ascent, but oscillation around an upward trend. Research shows that people who accept variability in healing cope better than those who expect constant improvement. When difficult nights come, and they will, remember, they don't erase previous progress. Your brain continues healing work even when sleep feels inadequate. Every night contributes to the overall trajectory, even when individual nights disappoint. Be gentle with yourself through the fluctuations. Grief returns in waves. Anxiety spikes unexpectedly. Sadness resurfaces when you thought you were past it. These aren't setbacks. They're the natural rhythm of emotional processing. What matters is the overall pattern over time. Why is sleep key to emotional healing? Not because it fixes you, but because it reminds you that you were never broken, just tired. Not because it solves problems, but because it restores capacity to engage with problems skillfully. Not because it eliminates pain, but because it makes pain tolerable, integrated, meaningful rather than overwhelming. Sleep is key because it's the only time your brain can perform the delicate work of emotional reorganization without interference. It's key because rest is not weakness, but foundation. It's key because healing requires surrender, and sleep is where surrender becomes natural. The ultimate answer isn't scientific. It's experiential. Sleep heals because when you rest deeply, something shifts. Something softens. Something that was too much becomes just enough. The pain remains real, but you become capable of holding it. The real change isn't in sleep. It's in trusting yourself enough to surrender to it. Throughout your life, you've been told to try harder, push through, stay strong, keep going. But emotional healing requires different wisdom. Try softer, allow rest, be gentle, let go. This isn't the wisdom of achievement, but the wisdom of recovery. Not the logic of productivity, but the truth of restoration. Sleep asks you to believe that not doing is sometimes the most important doing. That surrender is active, not passive. That darkness is where light originates. That you can trust your body's intelligence even when your mind doubts. Tonight, as sleep comes, you're not giving up. You're giving in to the deepest healing your biology knows. You're choosing trust over control, rest over vigilance, faith over fear. You will be okay. Close your eyes now. Let everything go. Healing is already beginning. And so, our quiet journey through emotional healing comes to a gentle close. We've traveled from the biology of pain, how emotions hurt the body, stress the heart, exhaust the mind, to the wisdom of sleep's healing. From cortisol clearing and memory reconsolidation to the deeper truth that healing requires surrender, trust, and rest. We've discovered that your emotional pain is real, measurable, physical, and that your capacity to heal is equally real, equally measurable, equally physical. Sleep is not magic, but it is medicine. Not mystical, but mysterious in its power to transform suffering into wisdom, wounds into scars, overwhelming pain into integrated experience you can hold and carry forward. Emotional healing reminds us that being human means feeling deeply, hurting genuinely, and healing gradually. Much of the most important healing happens in silence, in darkness, in the hours when you're not trying to fix or understand or control anything. Sleep reveals patience, the virtue of allowing time to work. Without rest, emotions remain raw, reactions stay intense, and resilience depletes. By honoring your need for sleep, you're honoring your humanity. The truth that you're not a machine to be optimized, but a living being requiring cycles of activity and rest, engagement and withdrawal, effort and surrender. Sleep offers the extraordinary gift of making you whole again, night after night, while you simply exist in peaceful unconsciousness. Take the deepest breath you can, as deep as possible. Think about unity. Every human who has ever felt what you're feeling, every heart that's ached, every mind that's raced through sleepless nights, every soul that's wondered if healing is possible. You are part of this vast community of feeling beings. Your emotions connect you to humanity across time and space. We all hurt. We all heal. We all need rest. Let your entire being dissolve into this ocean of shared human experience. You are not alone in darkness. darkness is where every human meets every other human in our common vulnerability, our shared need for sleep, our universal capacity for healing. Prepare now for deep sleep. No boundaries left between you and rest. Only peace. Only trust. Only surrender to the ancient biological wisdom that has sustained humans since the beginning. All is well. You are safe. Sleep comes. But there's no need to do anything now. Nothing at all. You've traveled far tonight, through the landscape of your own healing, discovering that rest is medicine and sleep is wisdom. You can allow these thoughts of emotional healing to fade now, like morning mist dissolving in sunlight, leaving only the quiet calm behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if gravity itself is gently pulling you down into the soft darkness where healing lives. If sleep comes, let it carry you like a river flowing to the ocean, smoothly, inevitably, naturally, into a realm where time and weight and worry no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Stay in the peace you've created by simply being here, by listening, by allowing rest. Tomorrow, your emotions will still exist. Life's challenges will still be real, but you will meet them differently. Slightly rested, slightly reorganized, slightly more whole. Sleep doesn't fix everything, but it restores the capacity to meet what cannot be fixed with grace. Rest well, dear one, and remember, healing doesn't happen on your timeline. It happens while you sleep, in its own rhythm, at its own pace. Your only job is resting deeply enough to allow the process. You've done that tonight. You are exactly where you need to be. Sleep well, dream gently, heal slowly, and wake tomorrow slightly transformed by the gift of rest. Good night.